Peace, peace. What's up, Black people? I am Black at it again. This is the final installment of Corporate Plantations, our slave plantations. Welcome to Yemima's World, the Jelly Moose's Cafe. I am your hostess, Yemima, and it is good to be Black in the land of the living once again. All right, let's get into it. So, corporate plantations are slave plantations. We've done two episodes where we've talked about how we got to the plantations. We talked about the last one about how we are to act once we get on the plantation, the do's and the don'ts. So the final installment is now we are on the plantation. We have been now for quite some time because unfortunately we get to these plantations and we get comfortable with a little bit of money that they pay us, and we kind of close our eyes to the things that are going on and we just glide through. So I want to talk about the BuKOONery on corporate plantations, the BuKOONery. So on most plantations, and again, I'm talking about in the corporate world, I'm talking coming from a call center perspective because that's my background. So in the call center, well, let's go back to the slave plantations first. So on the slave plantations, most times, people don't realize this, but most times the overseer was black, or the person who would break in new slaves that would come in was a black man. If you remember Roots, when Kunta Kinte came to the plantation, he was charged, Fiddler was charged with making sure that he became the slave that they wanted him to. Now, the other overseers were white, but Fiddler was actually put in charge of Kunta Kinte. If you've ever seen the TV show Underground, and if you have not seen it, then why haven't you? Because it is the best quote unquote slave television show that I've ever seen. It was canceled after only two seasons because it showed the enslaved people actually devising plans to escape and to self liberate and to fight back against oppression. So they was like, no, we can't have Negroes actually thinking in the 21st century that they can fight back. So it was canceled. But on that plantation, they had a black overseer after the white one was murdered by one of the field hands. Um, so yeah, a lot of times on the plantation, they had black people who were overseers. If you saw the movie Harriet, the one they made, I think it was back in 2019, I think, Harriet came out. You had a black man who was chasing after Harriet Tubman to bring her back into slavery. So over the years, they have put black people over other black people to kind of quiet the savage beast. And it's no different in corporate plantations. In corporate plantation, the BuKOONery starts with supervisors in call centers. 9 times out of 10, they are black women. And they task these black women to reinforce the brutality of the corporate plantation, the rules and regulations that they themselves don't have to follow now that they've made it to supervisor status, but they will reinforce those rules and regulations to those black people that are working under them. What kills me again is that in most call centers, it's single black mothers who are working in these call centers. And the supervisor, a lot of times, is a single black mother. And on in training, they will come in and they will throw the hammer down and they will tell you you cannot use your cell phone. And if you are caught using your cell phone, then you will be terminated on the spot. And I have had this to happen, swear to God, no lie. I have had a black supervisor to come in with that authoritative voice, that Sergeant Carter from Gomer Powell type voice and type stance, and tell us you can't use your cell phone. And if you're caught using it, you will be terminated on the spot. And their cell phone rang. And they answered it. And it was their child. And they held a conversation in front of the people that they just were chastising and telling them they can't use their cell phone, putting it back in their pocket and continue with the chastising and the authoritative madness. So you don't have, when you go into a corporate plantation, I know a lot of times I went to a corporate plantation and seeing a sister, you know, be in charge or in human resources or as a supervisor, it's like, oh wow, this is gonna be great. Nope, nope, nope. Because the thing about it is, they have been brainwashed into thinking that you can't help your employees. You can't help those that work under you. You just have to be in charge of them, but you can't help them. You can't help them with any personal problems. You can't be understanding. That's not what we're paying you for. We're paying you to keep law and order, basically. And they use black people like that all the time to for us to put our trust in them and only to have them to betray us. And they did that on the plantation. They did it on the plantation. I remember I worked for Continental Cable. I can say the name now because it's no longer in business. I worked for Continental Cablevision in the 1990s, and I had a black supervisor and a black manager, and they were both women. And in the 1990s is when black women were going back to wearing braids again. Box braids were out, you know, the Janet Jackson um, videos, Jade, the group Jade, they were wearing those box braids in the 90s. So 90s was the time of box braids, and I desperately wanted box braids. And my manager told me that I couldn't wear them. Now, I don't know if it was in the handbook or not, because again, we don't read the handbook when it's given to us. We just kind of sign it. We don't know what's in it or not. I don't believe that it was that I couldn't wear braids. It was just her department where she said I couldn't wear braids, and so I couldn't get them. And then when she turned in her resignation that she was leaving the company, and it was another black woman who took her place, and I went to her and I told her, I said, I want braids. And she said, that's fine. I don't mind you having braids. She said, just don't come in here with those nasty looking dreadlocks. I sighed. And I didn't want dreadlocks, I wanted braids, and so I was able to get box braids. That was back in the 1990s when you could get your whole head done for $45, $50. And now it's $345 and $350. And I ain't mad at you braiders because that's a lot of work to be on your feet braiding somebody's hair. So I ain't mad at you, get them coins. And if a white woman come to you and want her hair braided, braid it, but charge her a little bit more. But braid that. Don't let her wear it. If her hair fall out, that's on her. That's on her. All right, back to the story. Okay, so we have those BuKOONs in corporate America. And I can kind of look at you and by your characteristics today, know kind of what your ancestors were on the plantation. Not all of your ancestors may have the characteristics you have, but you definitely have some because we their DNA live in us, their characteristics live in us. We are blood of their blood, we are flesh of their flesh, and we are bone of their bone. So you BuKOONs that are on corporate plantation, then you had some BuKOON ancestors on the slave plantations. I can see it and I can tell. Um, I am working for a company right now, part-time work, and I have 2 more days with this company. It's telemarketing, which I hate, but I don't start another job until next week, and I had to have some type of income coming in, so I just took this job for 2 weeks just to, you know, have some money coming in. And it's actually a plantation. No lie, it's a plantation. It's a telemarketing job where I call owners of timeshares to come and visit the their timeshares, and it's like a weekend getaway, and it's in Colonial Williamsburg. So it really is a plantation because everything in Colonial Williamsburg is a plantation. And it was actually called, and I won't give you the name of the timeshare, but it was actually called blah blah Plantations. And after the death of George Floyd, it changed it to blah blah resorts. So the death of George Floyd kind of changed some things for some people. Um, Temporarily said, well, you know what, we're going to change the names of these Confederate schools, or we're going to change the name of these businesses and take plantations off and blah blah blah. And then a couple of years later, they're like, you know what, the Negroes really aren't caring about this anymore, so let's change it back. So there are a couple of schools in Virginia that had changed their name from Confederate uh, generals to something that made absolutely no sense. And so now they're changing it back to the Confederate names again. So there's that. But so the BuKOONs on my part-time job, it's a call center. So it's 90% black women, a few young boys in there. There are like four white guys. They scare me. I'm sorry, but when I see these young white boys in these call centers, they scare me. They do because they kind of look like that on their off time. They sitting at home in the basement googling how to make things that make things go boom. So they scare me a little bit. But the supervisors, most of them are black. The managers are white. The call center manager, top manager, is a black guy, but he's a BuKOON. So, he's part of the BuKOONery club. Um, and when I went into this job, of course, I always talk to my ancestors on to kind of get an idea, is this what I should be doing? Um, are you going to bless this? And basically, they said no. We're not going to bless it. I mean, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it, but we're not going to bless it. We're not going to increase because I get paid commission for every person that I book to come do a tour of the plantation. And my ancestors were like, we're not going to bless you inviting owners to come to the plantation to tour it when you're sitting there trying to make money just to make ends meet and you calling people who own timeshares and giving them free trips when you can't even afford to take a trip outside to your balcony. No, we're not blessing that. Now you're welcome to work it and make whatever hourly money they pay you, but we're not going to bless any commissions. We're not blessing that. And so I've been sitting there for 2 weeks and have not made one sale, and I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. Again, it was just until my other job kicks in next week, and I just had to have a couple of weeks of income coming in to pay some bills. But the BuKOONs on the plantation, the corporate plantations, are plentiful. When white people are in managerial and supervisor positions, they look out for each other. They look out for the ones that work underneath them. They will go to a Dylan and say, you know what? You should apply for the supervisor position, or you should apply for the lead position, or you should apply for this, that, and the other, or you should take advantage of these classes that they offer. They go and they talk to them about that. Black people that's part of the BuKOONery club, y'all don't do that. I have never had a black supervisor to come to me and say, you know what, you should apply for this, or you should apply for that, or you should take advantage of these courses. Never, never. Because unfortunately, we still are like crabs in a barrel. And it's sad, but we are. We're not crabs in a barrel. We don't want to see anyone else get ahead, or we're afraid they'll take our job because we know that we ain't going no further than supervisor. Some of us may make management, but usually we ain't going no further than supervisor. And it's okay. It's okay. So that's it. That is the last of the corporate plantations, our slave plantations. I hope you got some knowledge out of this, and I hope you take notice of it next time you are at work, especially if you work in a call center. The next time you're in a call center and they do a big hiring, which they will next week, where they do a big hiring and you see them bring in the boatload of people. Take notice of how many are black, how many are white, how many are women, how many are men, and watch how they bring them in when they're showing them the plantation. The next time you start a job at a call center, watch, listen to the rules that you can't have, things you can and cannot do. And remember, your ancestors had the same rules set for them. So, look, until next time, love each other, love yourself, give yourself grace, give others grace, stay healthy, stay safe, stay black. Until next time, peace.